Welcome to this week's episode of TTIH News. That's short for Tuesday's Today in History. The date, April 14th, and it was a very busy day in history. There's an interesting family tree that came out of the Yuan dynasty. Let's bring Andrea in for the backstory. Andrea.
Interesting family tree, isn't it? Well, we're in the year 1294. The Mongolian Emperor Temur Khan, who was the grandson of Kublai Khan and the great-grandson of Genghis Khan, came into power. He took the throne as an emperor of the Yuan dynasty after the death of Kublai Khan. He was the second emperor of the Yuan dynasty. Noah has an interesting story about Edward IV of England. Noah?
Mom, Edward IV regained the throne of England following the Battle of Burnet in 1471. This battle saw the House of York defeat the House of Lancaster and kill the Earl of Warwick. This was part of the ongoing War of the Roses that went on for just over 30 years, from 1455 to 1485. I didn't realize roses were worth fighting for. Oh well, back to you, Dad.
Thanks, Noah. Let's move over to Hannah, who has some interesting details about the first abolitionist society. Hannah, what can you tell us about that?
In 1775, the first abolitionist society in what would become the United States of America was organized in Philadelphia with Ben Franklin. Serving as its first president, the society asked Franklin to bring the matter of slavery to the constitutional conversation of 1787. He petitioned the U.S. Congress in 1790 to ban slavery. The society became a model for anti-slavery organizations in other states. Let's head back to Dad for a great story about the Pony Express.
Well, back in the year 1860, the first ever Pony Express rider arrived in San Francisco, California. The Pony Express was a mail service that delivered messages, newspaper, and mail, of course, using relays of horse-mounted riders. It ran from St. Joseph, Missouri to Sacramento, California, and finally on to San Francisco, California to complete its route. On October 26, 1861, telegraph lines were installed that connected San Francisco to New York City, and the Pony Express was officially terminated. Even though it only operated for 18 months, the Pony Express will be forever synonymous with the Wild Wild West. Okay, homeschool moms, dads, and kids, it's time for the Deep Dive! This is the topic of the newscast that has been selected by Mrs. Homeschool-Today herself, Andrea Johns, where she includes a lesson plan along with recommended reading that you can use to dive deeper into the topic. As always, we work to present tools that help homeschool families. You'll find a link to the lesson plan below on YouTube, or as always, you can access all of our videos as well as our material from our website, homeschool-today.com. Now back to the newscast. Up next, there was an assassination that occurred on April 14, 1865. Who committed the assassination, you ask? Well, there was a well-known stage actor named John Wilkes Booth, known to be a Confederate sympathizer, who committed the murder. Who was murdered, you ask? Well, it was our 16th president, Abraham Lincoln. Booth indicated in a letter he sent to his mother that he felt he was avenging the South for Lincoln's wrongdoings during the Civil War. On the night of April 14th, Lincoln and his wife Mary were attending the play of Our American Cousin at Ford's Theater in Washington, D.C. Booth entered the door of Lincoln's private balcony and shot him in the head as he watched the play. Lincoln died the following day at 7:22 a.m. in the Peterson House that was located across the street from the theater. He was the first U.S. president to be assassinated. Andrea also has a sad story about a ship that sank in the early 1900s. Andrea?
Well, Barry, on April 10, 1912, the British passenger ship the RMS Titanic departed Southampton, England for her maiden voyage across the Atlantic Ocean, bound for New York City. Just 4 days into the crossing, which was about 375 miles south of Newfoundland, the Titanic hit an iceberg at 11:40 p.m. The iceberg caused the side of the ship to rip open, allowing all the ocean water to enter. One thing that makes this story even worse is that the Titanic was built to carry 48 lifeboats, but on this voyage, it was only carrying 20. Now, some of the passengers and crew members were evacuated in these lifeboats. The Titanic also had an 8-member band that famously played till the very end in an effort to calm the passengers. A couple hours later, at 2:20 a.m., the Titanic broke apart and sank to the bottom of the ocean, with over 1,000 people still on board, including all of the band members. Less than 2 hours after the Titanic sank, the RMS Carpathia arrived, rescuing an estimated 705 survivors. Barry?
Andrea, what a riveting story. Well, it's time to change gears. Hannah and Noah, are you ready for the lightning round? Are you ready to rumble!
1792. France declared war on Austria, beginning the series of French Revolutionary Wars.
In 1841, Edgar Allan Poe's Murders in Rue Morgue was published.
43 BC. The Battle of Forum Galerium was fought between the forces of Mark Antony and the legions loyal to the Roman Senate near the village in northern Italy.
1925, WGN became the first radio station to broadcast a regular season Major League Baseball game. The Cubs beat the Pirates 8-2. Go Cubbies!
The year 966. The country of Poland was founded by Mazico I.
1981, America's first space shuttle, the Columbia, returned to Earth after a 3-day test flight. The shuttle orbited the Earth 36 times during its mission, which ended successfully with a landing at Edwards Air Force Base in California.
1828. Noah Webster registered his copyright of publications of the first American dictionary. The first edition was published under the name American Dictionary of the English Language.
1986, the deadliest hailstorm and the largest hailstones ever recorded in the world fell in northern India and Bangladesh. The heaviest hailstone weighed 2.25 pounds. This was a terrible storm that killed 92 people.
This is a special announcement brought to you by Tuesdays Today in History.
That was awesome, Hannah and Noah. Really compelling stories, told super fast. Well, in 1988, representatives from the USSR, Pakistan, Afghanistan, and the United States signed an agreement that called for the withdrawal of Soviet forces from Afghanistan starting on May 15th. The last Soviet troops left Afghanistan in February 15th of 1989. I'm going to turn it over to Andrea for our final story in this newscast. Andrea.
In the year 2000, after 5 years of deadlock, Russia approved the START II treaty that called for the scrapping of all U.S. and Russian nuclear warheads. The Russian government warned that it would abandon all arms control pacts if Washington continued with anti-missile systems.
Today's episode has been brought to you by Homeschool Today with Andrea Johns, featuring Tuesdays Today in History.
1578. Philip III, King of Spain and Portugal, was born in Madrid, Spain.
1741, Emperor Momozono, the 116th Emperor of Japan, was born in Kyoto, Japan.
1866. Anne Mansfield Sullivan, the miracle worker famous for teaching Helen Keller to read, write, and speak, was born.
1935, country singer Loretta Lynn, the first woman to earn the CMA's Entertainer of the Year award, was born.
History is fascinating. So many things happen every day, all around us and have for thousands of years. You can discover more about interesting history that happened on this date or any other date by searching online or visiting your local library.
Please hit the like button at the bottom of the screen. It's what keeps us making these videos. And don't forget to subscribe and the bell so you'll be among the first to know as new videos are released.
In the famous words of B.C. Forbes, history has demonstrated that the most notable winners usually encountered heartbreaking obstacles before they triumphed. They won because they refused to become discouraged by their defeats. Until next time, happy homeschooling.